Good.
Oh, I'm starting. Hello and welcome. This is what happens when we don't have Coach Rooney. We start off with silence. Hello and welcome to the D1 Baseball College World Series Finals preview show. Here we go. It is Sunday. Aaron Fitt, Kendall Rogers, Joe Healy. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
We're
Good.
doing well. I'll go ahead and talk since we had another awkward silence, but I'm doing well. After Ty Floyd and the 17 strikeouts last night kind of led the way. Aaron, it looks like today's going to be a little different. Kind of looking out the hotel window, I just saw a shopping bag go past me on the 8th floor, so that gives you an idea of what kind of wind we're dealing with. The wind's blowing straight out. I think they said a minute ago I was looking. The gusts are expected to be up to 35 miles per hour. So the question today is, like, who does that favor? That's kind of the big question for me.
It certainly doesn't favor people picking up trash in downtown Omaha. I mean, the 8th floor. I would love to know what kind of journey that plastic bag is on. Like that's got. I mean, to have gotten up to the 8th floor, that thing is gonna just. It's gonna. And who knows where that's gonna end up?
Got a lot. It's going to end up at the Bob.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. On the Bob for sure, and probably in the Missouri River. So shout out to pollution.
I have this shout out to pollution. I have this memory of being a kid, and we went to a game at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Shout out Runes, and we were sitting way in at the top of the upper deck, and we were just mesmerized by this one plastic bag that like floated up from field level all the way up and out of the stadium. And it's like, I want to see if this bag can make a journey like that.
Wow,
that's the real storyline today.
That's majestic.
Oh, exactly.
That must have been majestic.
It was magical.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's funny. Kind of looking back at last night real quick, guys, this College World Series has been awesome, but just the number of individual, like magical performances has been crazy. Last night, Kate Beloso gets the big home run. Tommy White gets the big home run against Wake Forest. Obviously, it's hit another one last night. But, the big story here has just, been with LSU, at least from a pitching standpoint, it's been, it was kind of the Paul Skeens show coming into this thing. But the number of people that have stepped up for LSU in this College World Series is pretty crazy. I mean, Riley Cooper still hasn't given up a run out of the bullpen. Ty Floyd with 17 strikeouts last night. And the guys, I think the thing that's impressive to me is Florida knew how they were going to be attacked. Like they knew, rising fastball, rising fastball, rising fastball. And like it did not matter last night. Like they were not seeing it well. And I was actually looking at some highlights this morning of his pitching last night. And I mean, that is a nasty pitch. And last night he had a little bit more juice. I think, Aaron, you tweeted this out early in the game. But he had a little bit more juice last night on that fastball. Typically, when I saw him twice earlier this year, it was more like 93, 95, maybe bumping 96. But, I mean, last night it was pretty much 95, 96, bumping a 97 with a couple of 93s in there. It was more that 94, 97 mix. So his performance was legendary. I mean, that was pretty special.
I think I even saw a 98 early in the game. And,
Yeah.
his fastball always plays up, even when it's 93, 95. But when it's playing up and he's got his peak velocity, I mean, good luck. It's I think his previous career high for strikeouts in a game was 10, and that was set earlier in Omaha, if I'm not mistaken. And so, to go out and strike out 17, and all of a sudden your name is alongside Eddie Bain and behind only Steve Arlen. I mean, that's something
Pretty
special
good.
right there. Those are legendary names around these parts. And so, he really has come into his own when they needed him most. And Cade Bloso once again coming through. And Tommy White, as you mentioned, I mean, second day in a row, hits a huge home run. They're down in the 8th inning. That was the crazy thing, was we're sitting there after 7, and Ty Floyd's mowing him down. He's got on his way to 17 strikeouts, and they had all these chances against Sproat. And somehow you look up and they're down a run in the 7th inning. It's like they just seem kind of snake bit, but all it took was one pitch. They had all these scoring chances. This is what I can't get past. They had all these scoring chances, and still they needed 3 solo home runs to get most of their offense. It was just kind of a strange game in that regard.
Steve Arlen, Steve Arlen no longer with us, but the family of Steve Arlen popped some champagne last night when they, Floyd comes out of the game with just 17 strikeouts. I wrote this in my story, but it's the difference in something being simple and something being easy. Like I can guarantee you there were scores of Florida fans watching this game at home going, "Stop swinging at that." The fastball up out of the zone, but like, brother, it ain't that easy. It's simple to say the key is laying off a fastball at the letters and above, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And I think we saw that again last night. And Look, I also can't just fight the feeling that this is. We alluded to this yesterday in the show at the Wilson store. I can't fight the feeling that this is just kind of like LSU is a little bit of a team of destiny, and the breaks seem to be going their way in that way. I mean, I guess you could look at the left on base last night and say, well, actually, they the breaks weren't going their way. But I go back to I think Kendall made this point that like there was a ball yesterday that is hard hit off the bat of Caglione, or I forget, I think it was Caglione, but it caroms off of Trey Morgan directly to the guy playing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Base.
Yeah,
like. And then Ty Floyd was like on it and covering first base. Like there were a bunch of things that had to happen for that out to happen, and it did. Right. Where if that ball caroms any other direction, like, it's obviously a much stickier situation. So it just kind of feels like LSU's kind of got everything rolling the right direction. And, they ran into 3 balls last night, and that ended up being enough on a day when they had trouble putting rallies together.
You mentioned, by the way, the Wilson store, and that reminds me, I think we should give a shout out to our good friends at Wilson. And if you're in town, please do make sure you stop by the Omaha Experience over there in the Omaha Baseball Village. They've got all the best brands under one roof. You can meet equipment experts and shop for gear from Evo Shield, DeMarini, Louisville Slugger, and Wilson, all at the Omaha Experience or online.
Awesome hats.
Yeah, this hat, I'm debuting this hat today. Picked it up on Saturday.
Good looking hat.
It's a DeMarini. It's fantastic. Check it out at the Omaha Experience or online at evoshield.com/Omaha this month. So thanks again to Wilson for that partnership. Guys, here's the storyline tonight. We've got Hurston Waldrop for Florida against Nate Ackenhausen for LSU. Ackenhausen was great his last time out. 6 shutout innings against Tennessee, really good offense. Waldrop also great last time out, had 12 strikeouts over 6 innings of 1-run ball. And we've got different ballpark conditions this time. Wind definitely howling out to center field. Who do we think this favors?
I will say this, Leah Van, who does a really good job covering LSU, kind of tweeted this out a minute ago about Hurston Waldrop, but, a little different LSU lineup right now than last year when he faced the LSU in the regional. But he struck out 11 and 6 2/3 and gave up 2 runs against LSU last year in Hattiesburg. So for Hurston Waldrop, there's a little bit of familiarity. For those that don't realize it, Florida did not play LSU in the regular season. So there's familiarity to an extent for Hurston Waldrop with LSU. I just think, number one, I think LSU wins this series. But I just think when you look at Florida, when LSU's kind of piecing things together today, I'm assuming Nate Ackenhausen's probably starting. Maybe Thatcher Hurt. I mean, the question is one of those two guys probably. I just think when Hurston Waldrop's been Florida's best pitcher in the postseason, as you pointed out last night, Brandon Neely can probably come back for an inning if he needs to. They still have Ryan Slater. Josh Rivera had a quiet night last night. My money's not on Josh Rivera having another quiet night again. I think Florida keeps things alive today. I think LSU wins tomorrow, but I think Florida wins today.
I do think it favors Florida from the standpoint of there are a few pitchers. Obviously, Skeens is the king of this, but there are a few pitchers that miss bats at the rate that Waldrop does, and he's been particularly good in the postseason. I included this in my story last night that in the NCAA tournament, he's thrown 21 innings, giving up 2 runs, 7 walks, 37 strikeouts. He struck out a dozen or more in each of his last 3 starts, all in the NCAA tournament. So on a day like today, when the wind is going to be gusting out, you don't want to put the ball in play, because once the ball's in play, you never know what's going to happen. And his ability to keep the ball from being in play, I think, is key. The other thing about that is, though, he needs to kind of pull off the trick that Ty Floyd pulled off. One of the reasons why Ty Floyd had a relatively low, considering how good his stuff is, relatively low career high in strikeouts is because he's never really been efficient enough to get deep in games. And last night he was. Waldrop's kind of in a similar boat where, he needs to be efficient enough to get Florida deep into the game and keep himself in the game to continue getting swings and misses. One of the other stats I put in the story is that of Ty Floyd's 17 strikeouts, 12 of them came on 0-2 or 1-2 counts. There just weren't a lot of deep counts in the game. And that feels like it's going to be important frankly, both sides, but Waldrop in particular, because especially with having used a couple of big bullpen arms last night for Florida, keeping Waldrop in the game late, I think is going to be important for them.
Those are all good takes, Joe. Good analysis there. I think, the key here is is if you're going to pitch up in the zone with a fastball, high spin fastball, that's going to lead to more fly balls when it's hit. And Waldrop is that kind of guy, but also he's got the splitter. And so the splitter, we saw it the other day, was kind of the key pitch for him. That's his pitch. That's his signature. It's an elite pitch. It's kind of like Floyd's fastball. It's coming. So you could say, okay, don't swing at it, but it's easy to say, not as easy to do. Maybe that pitch is kind of the key here in this game. But on the other side, I mean, if they do start Ackenhausen, which is what I anticipate, I love him in this ballpark on a normal day when you can just fill up the zone and pitch to contact. And that said, I think he had 7 strikeouts, last week. So he can miss some bats, but he's not a big strikeout guy. He's a pitch to contact guy. And so I don't know that pitching to contact is necessarily the right recipe when the wind is totally different like this. But I kind of do like the fact that LSU still has plenty of guys behind them that they can roll back there now. I mean, you've got all the guys who pitched against Wake Forest on Wednesday. I mean, I assume will be available: Coleman, Money, Herring, and Guidry. And I mean, it seems like Riley Cooper can pitch every day. So just keep running him back. I feel like they'll be able to piece it together once again. And right now, I just feel like they feel a little bit like a freight train, even though it's, you look at their overall offensive numbers and it's still like, they're hitting 220 in Omaha, Florida's hitting 214. It's not like there's been offensive fireworks, but it's just something about LSU's mojo and their, I'm going to keep riding the hot hand here. I think LSU closes it out today again, even though they have the pitching disadvantage against Waldrop.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to overwhelm them, which is really hard to do in this ballpark. The question is, can you overwhelm them with the wind blowing out? That'll be the question.
It does seem like another thing for Florida is if Florida is going to extend this series, like to Kendall's point, it kind of feels like they need to ambush LSU, right? The longer you let LSU kind of hang around in this thing, and if you let Ackenhausen get comfortable again and Ackenhausen's throwing the ball well, if it's a close game late, LSU's just pulled out so many of those, and it feels like they're going to win those kinds of games right now. So if Florida does not come out and put some runs on them early, that feels like the danger zone for the Gators.
Yeah, although I will say this for Florida, going back to the regional, they lose the second game in the winners bracket to Texas Tech, I believe, and then they come back, and it's not like they just eke their way to a bunch of wins. I mean, they really dominated through the losers bracket those next 3 days. It wasn't just holding on by the skin of their teeth here. They responded well to adversity, and so I know yesterday was a tough one for them. You lose in 11 innings. You had a lead late and couldn't hold it. But I still feel like this team is mature enough and good enough that they can bounce back and put together a good game. So I'm very excited to watch this game. I think it could go either way. Just like this whole series feels like a coin toss. But Joe, who are you picking?
Selfishly, because I want a game 3 here, I'm going to pick Florida.
All right.
I would just like to. I'd like to see a game 3 here, and I do like the pitching matchup from Florida's standpoint. There was a good point last night BT Ridepill made in post game, which is that I asked about the confidence they have with Waldrop on the mound, and he said, we feel like we have an advantage anytime that guy takes the mound, but ultimately we have to go out there and win it. We can't just stand around out there. Now I'm paraphrasing, but it felt like he was saying we can't just go around and stand out there and just watch him do his thing and then expect to eke out a run and win the game, right? And Kevin O'Sullivan made the point that there were a lot of bad at-bats last night for the Gators, or he felt, a lot of 0-2 swings, 2-strike swings that weren't the types of swings that Florida generally takes with 2 strikes. It felt out of character in his mind. So they know they have to come out here and play better. It can't just be, well, we're good. We got Waldrop. Like, we're fine. They have to kind of collectively play better because the offense wasn't great either, right? So even though they had some opportunities early, but it felt like as that game went on, it just kind of started to wilt. And maybe the air came out of the balloon because you can only leave the bases loaded so many times before you start to get frustrated. But anyway, long-winded way of saying, selfishly, I would like to see Florida just so we get a third game here.
I do think that, at some point, Florida's going to need a little bit more out of their stars offensively. And that means Caglione, who's 2 for 17 in Omaha. Langford's hit some balls hard, but doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. He's 3 for 16. Cade Curlin, the guy I keep talking about, who needs to be the igniter at the top of the lineup, he's 3 for 19. So, I mean, those 3 guys I think are really key here. And let's see if they can get something going here on Sunday. Kendall, did you have something or you good?
No, I want to give Chris Gennaro some props here. So for those who don't know, when he produces our show, he's like in a little gray box down here. You don't see him, but Aaron's over here talking, and he's over here doing curls in the background. I appreciate Gennaro doing some curls while we talk. I guess we're very motivating in the gym.
That's efficient right there. That's efficient. Get your workout in while running the 1s and 2s.
By the way, the listeners will appreciate an update. If Runes were here, he would have asked. So I feel like because Runes is not here with us today, and he's fine, by the way. That sounded foreboding, but no, he's fine. He's just, he's no longer in Omaha. It's early out on the West Coast. For
Mike Rooney.
Yeah. But I had my power rankings of the celebrity sightings in the hotel gym. Yesterday, Todd Blackledge was thrown into the mix. College football analyst for ESPN, former Penn State quarterback, Todd Blackledge. I'm going to go no play, though. No change to the top 5.
Really?
Todd Blackledge, a big name. However, I thought about this, and in context, he's a football guy at a baseball event. If we were at the college football playoff, perhaps Todd Blackledge cracks my top 5. But I can't in good conscience put a football analyst in the top 5 at the College World Series. I wouldn't feel right about that, especially bumping Mike Monaco from the top 5. So we're going no play on that.
So you're telling me that if we walk downstairs in the gym and Joe Burrow's on the elliptical, he doesn't go in the ranking?
Well, no, I mean, there is a certain line where a football player would crack that. So it's a combination of things. Yeah. But the tiebreaker, if you will, was that Monaco's here under baseball auspices.
Okay. Yeah. Todd
Blackledge is a football guy. No play. He's outside looking at.
Okay. I'll respect that.
Yeah.
By the way, Joe Burrow and his entourage bumping Kendall out of the press elevator is one of the greater outrages. One of the greater outrages.
I got you. Joey B. We'll see what we got today, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, you don't have
go
to go
Steelers.
There you go.
My buddy texted me and said, "Hey, tell him go Steelers."
So just quickly, first of all, our friends at the College World Series, the NCAA, do a good job with this event. I want them to get that on the front end. However, not for our sake, because we could take the stairs. It's fine. But the elevator situation at Charles Schwab Field, and if you're an LSU fan or a Florida fan or any fan who was here during the week that sat up at the club level, you know what I'm talking about. My goodness, man. Let's figure it out, fellas.
We need some power boosters in those things.
Yeah, it's just there's only a couple of them and they're slow. And again, it's not for my sake, but I feel bad for you've got fans who have been walking to the stadium or out in the fan areas in the 90-something degree heat, and then they're trying to come in and get off their feet and they're standing outside an elevator for 20 minutes or whatever. It just not a good situation. Anyway, that's my rant, but it irks me. That's all.
Good take.
Thank you.
Right.
We're going through some very important business right now.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? The Chicken Philly Day yesterday, I thought was solid. A great anthem yesterday. Shout out to our boy Drew.
Did get a good anthem. Yeah.
See, this is Runes should learn from us. You squeeze the inane banter in at the very end of the show, so people get the matters first. And if you're bored now, you can just tune out.
We would have had a 20-minute conversation about this elevator topic had Runes been leading the show here, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take it. Let's circle back around. Let's do one more baseball thing. We did get a good question in the YouTube chat here. Brant Robin asks, with the wind blowing out, do you sacrifice Milazzo's glove for Travinski's bat?
I think it depends. Is Travinski completely healthy? I think I've heard some talk about that, some speculation. I don't have any insight on that. But I personally, Milazzo didn't catch the ball great yesterday. He had 2 pass balls. If I might make that move. You know, I mean, I think you need to be strong behind the plate defensively. I think that's most important. And if you still think Milazzo is your best defender, then maybe you just stick with him. But Milazzo's had some okay at bats and spots out here too. But I don't know. I mean, that's a great question, Brant. I don't have a strong conviction on that either way.
Turns out I mispronounced the last name, Robban. It's got a Brant Robban. It's got a. I like that. I like that pronunciation better. It is a very good question. I think the health of it is a variable that we don't necessarily have all the. We don't not necessarily. We do not have all of the information on. But yeah, if the defense from Milazzo wasn't great yesterday, maybe you can always go defensive replacement, right? At some point, maybe you get Travinsky in there if he feels good and let him take some hacks, and see what kind of happens. So
yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
One other thing too, Aaron, you mentioned we've been asked also run this back because you mentioned this early in the pod, or maybe it was Kendall, I forget who, but LSU faced Waldrop last year in Hattiesburg. Was that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and how did that go? We've been asking the YouTube comments.
Yeah, so Leah tweeted out a second ago. I'll bring it up here. 11 Ks, 6 2/3 innings, two runs, 2 walks, 5 hits. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so pretty good.
But,
yeah, I mean,
but LSU also did not have Tommy White.
Right, different team, different Waldrop. So I don't know how much we can do there, but how much we can take from that. But there is a track record of success. At the same time, LSU also has a track record of having seen him. So I don't know. I don't know how to take that, but it is an interesting wrinkle for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be fun today, guys. Let's put a bow on it and look forward to getting to the ballpark today. We may or may not be celebrating or covering, I should say, a celebration of a national championship this afternoon. 2 p.m. start. That's fun. A little Sunday matinee.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the old days.
Yeah, you're right. So that'll do it, guys. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks again to Wilson for sponsoring. If you're in town, make sure you swing by the Omaha Baseball Village, the Omaha Experience there, and check out all the great gear over there. Thanks again. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it again. we'll do a video post game, and we might do a preview show again tomorrow. We might not. We'll find out tonight.
We'll see. You'll find out when we do.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
So long.